everybody. Welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I'm getting to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay in the leadership lane? And today I have another special guest. I'm getting to talk to my friend, Melissa Carrillo. Melissa is the Chief Human Resource Officer for El Paso County. She is certified in HR with both a PHR and a SHRM-SCP. She's also the 2021 Texas SHRM State Council Assistant State Director in the area of CLA, and we'll talk more about that. And I am so honored to have you on the show today, Melissa.
Thank you, Bruce. It's an honor to be here.
One of the things we were just chatting offline, one of the things that I love about this show is learning about my guests. And many of the guests so far that I've had on, we know each other. Like me and you both served together for Texas SHRM. But I did not know this. You also have a MPA, which is a Master's in Public Administration from the University of Texas, El Paso.
Yes, sir. I do.
That is pretty impressive. I love that. Okay, so I want to just kind of start off. Can you just share with the listeners and the viewers, can you share just kind of a brief highlight of El Paso County and how do you serve your customers?
Sure. So it's a great question, and I work in county government. So for those of you listening, I serve a very different customer. I have been in public service now for almost 20 years, and I've been at the County of El Paso for 14. I enjoy serving and I love what I do. The older we get, we learn more about ourselves, and I love that we never stop learning who we are because we keep changing. But I was destined to do something that helps and serves others in some way, shape, or form. The County of El Paso has, we were established in 1850, but we are local government and we work closely with the city here in El Paso, Texas. Oftentimes I joke and tell people, yes, we are still in Texas because we're at the furthest westernmost tip of the state. We're the only ones in the Mountain Standard Time Zone. But, I love what I do. My customers are internal and external. So I'm an internal service department in that HR provides services to our county attorneys, our district attorneys, our district clerks, our county clerks, purchasing, the judiciary, and of course our elected body. And so our customers are internal, and our job is really, how do we as HR help them? How do we ensure they have the right resources to get their jobs done? But how do we coach them? How do we guide them? Because they do technical things every day that sometimes they don't understand what they need to be doing with the people or the person. And so we coach and guide them because we really believe when you have the right talent, when you have the right people doing the right jobs, then it's a win-win. They're happy, they're producing, and then the organization, of course, succeeds. But a bonus for us is that even though I serve the internal customer, I serve my wonderful, fabulous community of El Paso, Texas, because by serving the customer, they serve the community. We are a community-based organization, and there's nothing better that I could do or want to do with my life and my time than to make sure El Paso continues to get better and better each and every day for the future generations that are to come.
I absolutely love that. I love how you said, I serve both the internal and external customers, because a lot of times we look at the customer as being the external customer, and here you are talking about, hey, the internal is just as important as the external. So I love that. I want to just start, we're going to talk about leadership because I want to get into, you talked about being at your organization for the last 14 years. And I noticed you started out as an HR training manager, and here you are today as the Chief Human Resource Officer. So I want to talk more about that, but I want to start with the Melissa Carrillo story. I want to know, how in the world did you get to HR? Where were you born? Kind of share that path. Was it a straight path?
Heck no. Are they ever straight paths? I don't think they are, right? One of my favorite sayings is, don't plan life, life plans you. And if you want me to tell the story of Melissa Carrillo, that theme holds very true to my life. So I was born in El Paso, Texas in 1980, and I love my hometown. I love my hometown. I was very fortunate to live on a street where my entire family lived. My grandfather was a contractor, and he had 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And it's important, I'll tell you why in just a bit, but that 1 girl was my mom. So I was daughter to the only daughter, and he built every one of his children a home on Martha Way, the name of our street I grew up on. So my next door neighbors and the neighbor in front of me and my grandparents all lived on the same street. We had all the homes were on one street that my grandfather built himself. And it allowed us to grow up, and to this day, our family is, I don't see my cousins as cousins. They're my brothers, they're my sisters, my uncles. We talk daily, and we're very, very close. So I thank my grandfather for that. As I grew up, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I don't think you know this about me either. When I was 4, I knew I was going to be a lawyer. My oldest memory is 4. I can still see a purple shirt, and I remember fighting with my mother in the kitchen, and there was for those of you that are listening, the ducks. Do you remember the theme of the kitchen with the white geese and the blue and white wallpaper? And I remember the memory so fondly, where I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And she's like, you should be a lawyer because all you do is fight. And I all my life I was always fighting, like, not to be mean, but fighting like, I don't believe in that, or I don't agree with that, or just very opinionated. But as I grew up, my mother, being the woman and independent woman that she wanted to be, said, I'm going to buy my own house. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my degrees. I'm going to teach and get my master's, and I'm going to buy my own house because I want to be able to say, I did it. Daddy didn't take care of me. And so she did. She did all that she said she would, and she bought us a home. And so we moved out of that neighborhood. That was a really hard time for us, but it was 8th grade for me, high school for my older brother, and elementary for my younger brother. But we moved and we did what we needed to do, and she was happy and she was pleased with her home that she bought on her own. Later, I graduated and I went to college. I went to Our Lady of the Lake in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. And I was so grateful because I'm very faithful. And so it was a really nice school to go to. We would go to church on Sundays, and we got to take theology and see nuns walking down the hallways and teaching us about faith. So it was a really nice added bonus. But when I went to school, I said, I'm going to major in political science and I'm going to minor in criminal justice because I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be that criminal defense attorney, and I'm going to go fight with everybody. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm very committed to my plan. So if I say I'm going to do this, I usually will, but unless life wants to throw me curveballs. So when I was in college, and I'm going to try not to be emotional about this, but when I was in college, you get fall breaks and you get all these breaks and you come home. When I was going back to be a sophomore, right when I was leaving, the weekend I was leaving, my mother sat me down in her bedroom and said, I need to tell you something. And I said, okay, what's going on? She was diagnosed with ALS. And she needed to let me know that as I was embarking on going away to college, I was going to come home and I was going to start seeing her change, because that disease, for those of you who don't know, is very progressive. They give you 2 to 5 years to live. And it just depends where you get it. With ALS, it's you either get it in your mouth first and it goes down, or you get it in your feet first and it goes up. But it's a disease that kills muscles. It's the ice bucket challenge, for those of you who wonder what ALS is. But eventually your lungs are a muscle and they will stop working and you will suffocate. So for my mother, it started in her feet, so it gave us some more time. But she told me that as I went to college. And I skipped first grade. So I graduated. I was a 16-year-old senior, and I graduated 3 months after I turned 17. So I'm a little younger, and I'm hearing this information, and I'm totally a brat about it. And I'm upset at the world. I think it's the dumbest information I could have ever received, because I'm angry. And when you're 18, your emotions are all over the place. So I went back to college, and I was not in a great place. I was very upset, and I was worried about my mom. I was raised by a single mother. As you know, I keep talking about my mom and not my father, but my grandparents were amazing. But when I came home for fall break in October, which was, gosh, 2 months later, when I came home for fall break, my mother was using a cane. And I thought, whoa, what's happening here? Like, I just got the news and now you're using a cane. So by Christmas time, she was in a wheelchair. And I knew I wasn't going back to college. I said, I'm not coming back to San Antonio. If it's this progressive, if they've given my mother 2 to 5 years to live, I have no business being in another city when I can learn from El Paso, Texas. So I came home to El Paso in December of '98, and I finished school at UTEP. And I love UTEP. I'm a proud minor, and we're really proud of that. But when I tell you don't plan life, life plans you, no one could have ever anticipated that that was going to be given to us, any of us. So I adapted and I changed. And when you come home to El Paso, Texas, I got my political science degree. I did what I said I was going to do. But when I graduated from college, my mother was still alive. And so it was time for law school, but I couldn't go to law school yet, right? So I passed the time by. I got my master's. I got my master's in public administration. And it's very similar to an MBA. It just has a focus with public sector and government worlds. And I started doing my internship at the county of El Paso. And so when I did my internship, my mother was still alive, but she passed in the middle of me getting my master's degree. And that, of course, game changer, talk about changing that straight path that we thought we would be on. It changed everything. My grandparents lost their daughter. They were, of course, still alive. And so my grandparents, I couldn't leave them. My mother used to say, when I die, just go to law school, use my life. I mean, my mother, the good thing about that whole thing is she told us what to put on her when she was in her casket. She told us her funeral was planned because she said, this is where, she said, when I get cremated, this is where you're spreading my ashes. So it's really nice to have those conversations because we honored her in every way possible. But I was like, okay, I'll go to law school when things happen. But no, because when she passed, now I have to deal with my grandparents who lost their only daughter. And I wasn't going to leave them. So I tell you all these details because that's what kept me home. That's what kept me in El Paso. I never intended to stay in El Paso. I never intended to get my master's. But things told me, no, you're staying here. And I'm grateful that I did. I have no regrets. But when you ask, how did I get into HR? That's the story of how I fell into HR, because I was stuck, for lack of a better words, for a period of my life where I couldn't go to law school. There's no law school in El Paso. And when I did my internship at the county, that's what opened up my opportunities for working in the public sector and county government. And I stayed with them. And I am so grateful to the opportunities I was given, because that became my home. And then I fell into HR. I ended up shifting gears when getting my master's and said, okay, we'll focus on HR. And I've loved it and never looked back. And I'm very grateful. So.
And here you
That's
are.
how I fell into HR.
And that's your story.
Yeah, it's a lot of details.
Oh my goodness. Melissa, first of all, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was, oh man, I'm emotional. There's so much to that. I wanted to start, first of all, you keep using the word grateful. I love that. And, this is actually being recorded early November. This is going to play Thanksgiving weekend, like that weekend following Thanksgiving. And so as you use that word, I want to talk more about that. But man, what a legacy for your grandfather to kind of set that up, for all the family to live together. And then, the leadership by your mom, like saying, hey, I'm going to do this and we're going to get out of here. I'm going to show you the way. That's what I hear. She's showing you the way. And then, and then I can just tell like the importance of family for you. And just the way you handled everything. And I was sitting there thinking, I can relate, 18 years old, I've got my own mind. Oh my goodness. I don't think I want to go back to that time. But you persevered through it. Right. And just kept making it happen. Oh man, I love that. Where does that, like, where does that gratitude, where does that come from? Did that start with your grandfather and that's just something that's been embedded in you? Share that.
I, I think as I get older, I learn to be more grateful. I told you when I was 18, I was a brat and I handled the news very poorly. And as I get older, my faith is very, very dear to me. And my faith told me that if I still wanted to know my mom in a different way, I needed to have that faith to be able to communicate with her. And so even though she left me, I was 24 years old when I lost my mother. Remember, I was raised by my mom alone. And so me and my two brothers stuck together like peanut butter and jelly. And to this day, we are crazy close, but we knew we needed to keep her alive. And I think the more that goes on, the more that you realize we are grateful. Even though I lost her at 24, I'm grateful I had her for 24 years. You have to mentally change the way you respond to things, or this life can eat you up. It can eat you up. And I've had some hardships, but I've never described myself as having a hard life. But sometimes my husband and I will engage, and he's very fortunate to have both his parents and all his brothers and a great, fabulous life. But I have suffered loss for a long time. We joke sometimes. It's like, oh, our family pays the electric bill at the funeral home because I've suffered a lot of loss. But how do you let it bring you down? Do you let it say enough, or do you say no? There's a will, there's a reason, and we take from that and we learn from it and we build on their legacies and go forward. And because I'm a mother to my 9-year-old son, you would think that my son knew my mother. He talks about her regularly. He'll say, Mom, look, Grandma Rose, or he'll talk this, and he never met her, but we keep her alive. And I think if we don't look at the glass half full, if we don't look at life with grateful hearts, it will eat us alive. And I will not let this life eat me alive.
I love that. You know what? Your mom would be so proud of you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is so good. So good. And I love that because what I do think is that leaders that are making a difference in the workplace, in the community, I do believe that they take lessons, right? Whether they're lessons from failure, just lessons from life. They take those and try to get better from those. And they also share that with others to help others get better too. And I think that's a very common thread. And that's why you are definitely in the leadership lane. I want to ask you, so I noticed that you started out as an HR training manager, training manager. Okay. So I want everybody to hear this. She didn't start out as a CHRO. She started as the HR training manager, and you continue to work yourself through the and navigate through the organization. And today you're leading that team. I'm curious, was there a moment or has it just happened over time? Was there a moment where you said, you know what, I love what I do? Was there a moment, was there a moment when you found your lane, your purpose?
You know, I feel like I get to say that all the time. I love what I do. I love working in HR. I love that I fell into HR. I love the boss I get to serve under. I love what I do every day. I really do. I think the moment that I recognized this was what I was destined to do was when I was in training. It's funny you say that, but I will say that I started my career as an intern, and that's important to me for a lot of reasons, and I will tell you why in just a bit. But I started my career as CHRO when I was an intern many, many years ago, because those were the opportunities where I was hungry. I wanted to learn, and people took a chance and said, well, I'll give you information. You want to know, I'll teach you. And that was when I was an intern. My first job at the county was training manager, and I loved it because I love teaching others. You heard me in the beginning. I love serving. If I have any gift that I can help you with, I will do it. So when I was a training manager, I got to teach and train on things I knew. I was able to train attorneys on anti-harassment and coaching and management. I was able to train employees on how to be their best selves and how to hold themselves accountable. So when I was a trainer, I knew this was the field for me. HR was the field for me because you get the best of all the worlds. I wanted to be a lawyer. You deal with laws all day long, right? I get to help others. I get to sit as a partial psychologist and really coach people when they're unhappy with their decisions or in their life and help them figure out different paths so that they can get back to a place of being happy at work. And you just get to serve your community. So being a trainer and teaching others and helping others, it was my first job, and that's when I knew HR was my calling.
Love that. Oh my gosh, that is absolutely fantastic. It's so funny how you're talking about it was almost like that little moment, right? You were an HR training manager where I remember when I joined Armstrong, I shared this story that I remember I knew I found like my lane when I was asked by a friend to help his banker move his mom. And we only needed to move a couple of boxes and a dresser, I think. It was very small, but it was significant to his friend to help his mom. It relieved all of the stress for him. And I was like, wow, I can make that much of an impact. I love this.
Yep.
That's
People don't
fantastic.
realize the impact you make on others. I think we live life sometimes thinking about what are we doing, and you don't realize, but what you do impacts all those around you. So because I love to serve others and I want others to be the best versions of themselves, it's the little things that will always make those lasting impacts for sure.
I love that. Let's talk leadership here. And I know that, 2020 has been a challenging time. It continues to be, not has been, it continues to be a challenging time. I like to ask my guests, have you felt like your leadership approach has changed in 2020, or how have you had to, is there a way you've had to shift at all?
So I thought about, this year has been hard for sure, but I will tell you that I think my leadership is the same as it was before the pandemic hit, in that I have always admired the people who work on this team, and I do my best to show them that love and that appreciation. When I train supervisors, I often say, if y'all don't remember anything from this training, just remember one thing. Please make sure you treat your people as human beings. That's all you have to do. You just got to treat them like humans. When you treat them with kindness and with respect, even when they're bad, even when they do bad things, you still treat them with that kindness and respect. They will work so hard for you. It's ridiculous. It's not rocket science. So coming into the pandemic, when I say I don't know that I've changed much, I will say I continue to treat them with that love and respect that they absolutely deserve. The thing that I've had to do harder than ever before is stay in their face, because it gets lonely. It gets very difficult to, keep sending emails, constant emails of, hey guys, this is where we're at today. This is what our county judge ordered. This is the environment. Stay safe. Don't forget, wear your masks, wash your hands. It gets old, and there's several of my staff live alone. Some of my staff doesn't have family, and you have to think differently and stay connected. So, once early on in about, I want to say May, I sent them each a mask. I ordered masks that were personalized for our department with our department logo. And I hand wrote a note and I mailed it to their home addresses, so that instead of you getting another email and another Zoom call, I wanted to do something personal, and I wanted them to know I cared about their safety. So the gift was representative of that safety. And then I took the time to send them those notes. And I have 36 on my team. So it was a lot of Post-it notes, and I had my son helping me put stamps on envelopes, but they were so grateful to know I took the time to say, I care about your safety. I'm still thinking about you. We're going to get through this. We're El Paso strong. You just have to think differently to stay in their face, because emails aren't going to cut it right now. We need something more than emails.
I love how you said we need to think differently. That is so good. You also said connected. And I remember whenever March got here, I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do here? I need to shift. And and so I just said, I'm going to align with three things, and whatever if it's in this zone, that's where I want to be. And I want to stay connected. I want to stay visible, and I want to stay educated. I'm going to I need to keep learning, keep growing, keep skilling up. I need to learn Zoom, right? I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
all these different things came out, and I'm like, I've got to figure this out, and I love that. But when you just now told me that you wrote a personal note, that got like I have chills right
Oh,
now. That is so good because I'm a big believer in note writing, personal notes. Because think about the mail you get. The mail
yeah,
you get, it's bills, it's junk mail.
yeah,
Rarely do you get a letter with a stamp on it
yeah.
that with a personal message. That's powerful. So did you get a lot of positive feedback from that?
Oh, I totally did. I got a lot of pictures. People would
Pictures.
they would put their masks on and then they text me and said, "Thank you, boss. I'm so grateful. Thank you for thinking of me." I think people take for granted what we do every day and we don't realize those impacts. I didn't do it for a response. I did it because I wanted them to know I was still here and I still cared and we're going to make it. And we'll talk about NAMI in just a bit, but I serve as the president for NAMI El Paso this year. Mental health is near and dear to my heart for many reasons. And this pandemic has opened up mental health for everybody. They say 1 in 5 suffer from mental health. That's true. But I think everybody suffers from mental health at one point or not in their lives. And so at one point or another in their lives. And I wanted my people to know we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. And I didn't do it for the response. I did it to let them know I cared. And I do come from a place of, I think they need to know that. People need to know that they're humans and that they're cared for.
I think one of the things I've realized that great leaders do stand out during a pandemic, and it's because they show up, they're visible, they're in front, they're communicating, they're doing all the things that you're doing, and I think that's so important, and a lot of people miss that, and it's just again you didn't do that. Hey, I'm going to send this note so I can get a note back. You sent this note to say, hey, I want you to know. I feel it. I care about you, and I'm here for you when needed. I do want to. You mentioned NAMI. I would like to touch on that just real quick because we are talking about mental health. I think it's super important. I did not realize you were the president of NAMI organization, which stands for what does that stand for? National Alliance of Mental Illness.
Yes, sir.
And so share a little bit about that and how you're serving people. I would love to touch on that because I wasn't even aware of this organization until I did a little bit of research.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you for talking about that. I keep saying that as we get older, we learn more about ourselves. And it was probably in 2017 when I had my own closeness to the illness where, anxiety and everyone can say I feel anxious but I was struggling with anxiety personally in 2017 in a way I didn't even know because I just keep going and I just, my grandfather raised me to say when you just get back on the horse and I just get back on the horse and we sometimes don't process feelings because we're just going forward. And my body literally was aching and hurting. And it got to a point where my hands turned like this in December of 2017. It's 2016. It was December of 2016. And I was like, what is going on? Of course, instantly I thought, I have my mother's disease, ALS. My mother, when she ended, her hands were like this, right? They atrophied. So my brain turned on. I started worrying. I started getting scared. And what turns out is that when you go through periods of anxiety or stress, your body knows when to take carbon dioxide from your body parts and your bones and send them to your lungs so your lungs can breathe. Because the most important thing is that you breathe. I didn't know this. I didn't even know I was stressed out. I said, this is a great period of time. It's Christmas. My stress levels are down. But apparently, with anxiety, with mental health, things will hit at the end. It's when you're calm that your body reacts. And that got me really thinking because it was a scary time for me. I thought, what's happening to me? Am I falling apart? I don't understand. At one point, I thought I was having a heart attack. Nothing was ever wrong with me until a doctor said, you have anxiety. It's anxiety. And I'm like, well, anxiety is not a big deal. No, anxiety can be a really big deal. So in light of that episode, it got me really thinking about mental health and how many people dismiss what mental health is. Sure enough, this organization is about ending the stigma I coincidentally was asked to serve on the board in 2016. I said, no, I have so many things to do. But then when that happened, I was like, no, I'm going to go help that organization. And when I did, they're committed to educating and empowering people who live with mental health, or educating those who live with someone with mental health, so we know how to respond. Because what happens is people who are suffering from mental illness, they see things differently. And a lot of times people will think, well, just don't think about it. We'll change the way you feel. They think the normal advice you give someone works, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. And so it's about ending the stigma so that humans can really understand mental health is just like diabetes and cancer and heart disease. It's just affecting a different organ in your body, your brain. And sometimes the brain is going in its own world and you can't control it, contrary to what people may think. And so it's showing love and support and bringing resources to people so that they continue living with whatever mental illness they have, but in a way that's productive, in a way that people are supporting them. Because when they feel alone, when people aren't supporting them, that's when they get isolated. That's when the bad things start happening. That's when suicide is up. And we don't want that to happen. We don't. So I'm very, very passionate about the mental health cause and educating people to know what it is so that we can just stop it. It's just like any other disease. Let's work together to foster love and support and help people live normal lives.
You know, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I know that that's been one of the things that I've seen whenever I see a lot of information come out from SHRM, a lot of topics come out. I mean, mental health in the workplace is like at the top. It's at the top. And one of the things that I've seen is a couple of things. One is not knowing or wondering how to help people. Like what are the signs, and number one, and then number two, if you have anxiety or you're suffering from that, a lot of, you just talked about, depending on what level, people can be isolated. How do they talk about it? Like, where's that vulnerability come from? It's such a heavy, listen, this is a heavy, heavy topic.
Yeah.
And as you talk about this, I'm sitting here thinking, well, what is a sign that I could see, like somebody's suffering from that, or my own sign? And then if I am, like, my first thought is, there have been times where you get that, you see that, you feel that black cloud kind of follows you around, and you're like, oh man, I just feel, and it's so hard to like get out of that and talk to people about that. Typically, the organization that you serve, sounds like they do a great job of like helping, like coach or help people become aware of areas to help for that. What are a couple of things that you could share that might help people on that?
Well, so I'm no psychologist, I'm no psychiatrist. I don't serve in the social services field, but you're right. This organization teaches normal people to recognize certain signs, and isolation, withdrawal, change in behavior. Think about a time, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who said someone's starting to act different. And I said, you need to call them. It was through work, but I said, you better call them. Well, I don't want to jump the chain. And you need to call them. It was like, I don't care about no chain. You need to call them and say, look, you're acting different. Is everything okay? Because when people are suffering from depression, anxiety, they feel like they're different. They feel something's wrong with them. No one's going to understand it. And that's not the case. Several people can relate to it. So when people feel that, they'll isolate, they'll withdraw. What we need to do as people is just check in. Like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, what's up? How's it going? And we all know when someone's off. We all know when things are just a little bit different. So what I would ask people to do is just pay attention to what's going on around them. If they see people acting differently, ask them, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because for me, the number one remedy to this is hope. When someone tells you, hey, I have felt like that. You're not alone. My sister went through that and she came out of it. Hey, the minute you give someone hope that they are not going to be like that forever, they will cling on to that hope and they will see sunshine again. It's when they feel like this is it forever. I'm never going to stop hearing voices in my head. I'm never going to get that dark cloud. I'm never going to stop feeling the jitters and being anxious. That's not true. Never is never. You never say the word never. We just have to give people hope. It's really powerful.
Super powerful. Oh man,
Yeah.
this is so good. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for serving NAMI and that organization. It sounds incredible. And I know that just some of the tips that you just now shared, I know somebody that's listening, that's going to help them. And it may not help them personally. It may help them with some information to go check in, like you just talked about. Hey, just check in, and it's going to help me too. And so thank you. Oh my gosh, that is so good. I want to talk about, now that you're in this CHRO role, I would love to hear, like, what is it about? What do you love about leading a team? I mean, we talked about, you found your lane as early on in your career, and then you get to the top, and now you're leading team. You lead in NAMI, Texas SHRM. We'll talk about that here shortly. What is it about that you enjoy most?
I think the most satisfying thing about leadership is you get to help others achieve their goals. I wholeheartedly believe that if you are in a leadership role, if you are a director, a CHRO, any kind of leadership position, you owe it to those who serve with you to make them better versions of themselves every day. You do, because you didn't get here alone. You went through your hard steps to get to where you're at, and they're wanting the same things. I think our roles as leaders is to make sure we develop our people so that they take our jobs. Every day, what are you doing to make sure that the people who serve you are getting ready to take your job? Because that's a win-win when you're taking a chance on them, when you're growing them so that they get that knowledge and skills that you already acquired through experience and years, and you give that to them. You set them up for a position not only to take your job, but they become better resources in the roles they currently play, and you as a leader get to benefit from that amazing productivity and performance of these employees. But I wish supervisors would stop being insecure about people taking over their jobs. It's weird to me, because that's a good thing. If they take over your job, if they take over even a better job than what you have, you were part of that process. You helped coach and grow them to that success. And that's amazing. So yeah, I think that's the most gratifying piece for me.
That's fantastic. When I first started working for a company in Dallas, Texas, our leader had a philosophy that if you want to be promoted, you had to hire and train your replacement.
Oh, I love
And
that.
yes, and I thought, what? And I thought that was really impactful. And I love how you talk about, you didn't get here by yourself. I'm going to touch on mentors here in just a second, but before I do that, I want to ask you one last thing about leadership. And we're talking about, okay, well, you need to, we want you to, for people to be able to take your place. What are some things that I don't know if you have do you have a leadership development program in your organization? And what are some things that your team members, you try to get your team members to do to skill up to get better in the workplace? Can you share that?
That's a great question. And we have those challenges every day. We were actually talking about one this morning, but at the County of El Paso, we have the ICMA Leadership Development. It's a leadership academy. It's 6 months long. ICMA is International City County Management Association. Because we're local government, we tend to, of course, watch what's trending with that association. And they have an amazing 6-month academy where the materials are provided. And what we do at the County of El Paso is we reach out to esteemed leaders within the organization, and we task them with teaching the module for the month. So they take the book, they read it, and first piece maybe talking about government and ethics and strategic planning, and we find someone who's going to talk about that. And it's a 6-month program every other Friday, so it's twice a month from 8 to noon. So it's 4 hours every other Friday. And they have their own books that they have to read and their own workbooks, but then they hear esteemed leaders that are recognized within the county organization, teaching how they've applied it to real world. So we have this mentorship, learn from me, learn from my examples going on, where you have frontline supervisors coming into this academy saying, oh, I didn't know our amazing county attorney went through something I'm going through. And it gives them this really great inspiration to say, I want to be like you. I'm so grateful you've went through things I've gone through, and you're helping me understand how I can get through them better. But it's 6 months, and then they graduate, and it's a big deal. We make a big deal about the graduation. We invite the county judge to come speak. Their boss, their families get to come see them graduate. And now they have this certification in the county that if they want to do other things, they can say, and I'm a proud leadership graduate from the ICMA County program. And it helps them with promotional opportunities and things like that. So we're really proud of that program, and we absolutely will continue it for years to come.
Well, that's fantastic. Oh man. And it builds confidence. They're, all of a sudden they've gone through this program. They just feel like, hey, I'm becoming more. And I'm sure that's going to make you feel good too, just being part of that process. I love how you talked about, mentors, and you include other business leaders. That's fantastic. I always like to ask leaders making a difference. Can you share a couple of people in your life that has mentored you along? Maybe it's more than a couple, but share some mentors in your life that's made a difference, and why were they able to make a difference?
No, sure. I think it's so important and so powerful that we all have mentors, and we all have people who are going to be honest with us and tell us where we need to improve on our mistakes or our deficiencies. You want people to be honest with you. You do. And if you don't have a mentor, I encourage you to find one. But, I was grateful that all my life I was raised by a mother and a grandfather who really were hard on me. They really were. My grandfather, I've talked about him several times in this call, but he was my father, and he was always about hard work. Everything he said was hard work, hard work, hard work. Just work hard. Love what you do, work hard. That's all you got to worry about. No fluff. My mother, because she was divorced and she raised her children on her own, I was her only daughter. So she kind of instilled a lot of her hardships in me because she didn't want me to ever go through what she went through. And I'm going to tell you the advice she gave me, and it's probably going to shock quite a bit out there, but my husband doesn't like this advice very much, but she told me, live your life so that you can always rely on yourself. And if a man comes along, he's just a perk. And I know that's harsh, but she wanted to make sure that I was never in the position she was, where I needed to stay married. I needed a man who might have been abusive. She didn't want me to go into that. She wanted me to be independent, go to college, take care of myself so that I could have options with the successful relationships in my life versus, some of us get stuck and we don't have choices. And she didn't want me to be in that role. So I was raised to be a really tough kind of gal. But going into the world, I have two mentors that I'm grateful for. And the first is Tony Mullen. And Tony owns a concrete company here in El Paso, where I was an HR manager for him for 5 years before moving to the county. And if it wasn't for me saying I need to pursue my degrees and go work in the public sector, I could have stayed with him forever. And he was raised he was very poor. He was raised very, very poor. And to the point now that he's a millionaire in this day, he's a millionaire to this day. And he has never lost sight of his humility. And he always carried you work hard, you're smart, you're amazing, don't take anyone's BS. He fostered that. But I went to college during the time that my mother was sick while working for him. And he adjusted my schedule all over the place. Sure, you can go do that internship at the county and on Wednesdays and not work for me. Sure, you can leave early. Sure, you can come in on weekends. He supported my growth and loved me, genuinely loved me, and allowed me to grow and prosper. And I owe a lot of where I'm at today to him because he let me. He just worked with me, and he did it because he knew I'm going to invest in you because I know you're going to go out and do great things in this world. Even though it didn't impact him and his company at some point, he just believed in me. And I'm so, so grateful. And to this day, we have lunch, we talk, we check in when I'm having bad moments. And he doesn't, he doesn't sugarcoat anything, and he gives it to me real. And I really respect and value his opinion. So he's a great mentor to me. My second mentor is my current boss. And I am so fortunate that I have her. She is the county's chief administrator, but she was the HR director before I was. And that goes to show the greatness that HR people can do with what they know and what they learn in different roles. Because she's been my boss for over a decade now, and she's hard on me. She's so hard on me. But again, as you can see, my theme is I need people to tell me like it is. I need people, when I'm taking things personal, she'll call me out and say, Melissa, you're personalizing this. This doesn't need to be personal. I know you feel poorly. I know you're not proud of where this decision went, but wake up, girl. Let me tell you the bigger impacts. And I love that hard advice because it does wake me up and it makes me better. And every day, the way I want my staff to be better, I want to be better. And I'm grateful to have these role models in my life who really invested in my success and my future and where I'm at today. And it doesn't mean that they're nice all the time, and not to say they're mean, but they give you the information you need to hear sometimes that nobody else will.
I think one of the things that I've seen that great mentors do is they will challenge their mentee. And when you're talking about, hey, be honest, tell me like it is, I think that's a common thread of a really good mentor. So when people get mentors in your life that challenge you, that's a good one. Hold on to them. I will say this, that your mom's quote, when you're sharing that with me, I was thinking immediately, skill up, girl. Just skill up. I love that. I love that. Oh my God, that is so good. And I'm sure Tony and your boss are going to really appreciate your kind words. That's fantastic. I love that. I think that's how we're shaped in our careers through mentors in our life. And so I appreciate you sharing that. I want to shift over to, you're talking about leading, teams. I want to talk about leading yourself. And I always like to if there's a way that I could pull out one practice or something that you do every day that helps you stay on track, I would love for you to share that. Is it a discipline? Is it a practice? Is there a system that you have? Could you share that with the group?
Sure. So I'm going to do two parts of this, but one of them is, like I said, I think proper planning is absolutely important. And I review every weekend before I go into the next week. What am I doing? Where am I going to be at? What can I do on Sunday to get ahead for the week? It's getting in the right mindset. And I learned this trick years ago where I may have 50 things on a list that I need to get done, but every day I start my day with what are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to get done today, right? And of course they have to be the things that are most important, but I put 2 or 3 things down on a Post-it note, on a piece of paper, and all day that's what I'm working towards so long as my calendar allows. But it helps you so that you bite off little at a time versus being overwhelmed with this list that 2 months later you're still dealing with these projects that go untouched. You've got to chip away little by little. And so that's one of my really something that I can give to other people is plan your days, plan your weeks, plan your months, and just bite off a little piece at a time.
I love that because you said, before you shared the next, you said the key thing is getting into the right mindset. Mm-hmm. Right? That is so huge. That statement is huge.
Well, and that leads me to the next piece with when I tell you about all the stuff and challenges that I've gone through, when I tell you about the anxious feelings I had years ago, I don't want to get back to that place. So I know how important this precious mind is. All of us, our brains are so important. And the way you keep in the right mindset is you keep them healthy. So the other part of being my system is I do my best to eat really, really clean as much as possible. I don't get mad at myself if I ate a cheeseburger with my son or my husband, but I try to eat healthy often, so that my lifestyle is I normally eat healthy, and every now and then I'm okay, and it's okay. But I do that because I think the food we put in our body is so important. They say the link to mental health in your brain is your gut. What you put in your gut feeds that brain. And so I want it to have good stuff. I make sure that I exercise as often as possible. I go running a few times a week, and my son rides his bike right beside me. I'll lift weights in my bedroom while watching a movie. I need to stay healthy. And it's because I know all of that drives your mind. And then most importantly is sleeping. I used to be the type that would stay up till 2 in the morning, and I'd be fine with it. It was great. I got a lot of work done. But I dragged the next day. My brain wasn't feeling well. And so it's that simple stuff our parents teach us when we're kids. Eat right, exercise, and get your sleep. Well, I never realized the importance of it until I was 40. And so I practice that religiously now. I make sure that I take care of myself. I journal and I meditate every night as I go to bed.
Fantastic. I think it all comes back to wellness, right? Health and mental wellness is the key, and I love that. You've shared a lot today, and before we accelerate our last few minutes of the show, I would love for you to share if there's any advice that you were given that you find yourself sharing with others regularly.
Yeah. Great question. There's so much that I live by and I've incorporated. One of my favorite ones is don't chase the title will come.
Mm.
And that's for people who feel stuck or feel like they should be advancing more, or I should be a director, I should be a CHRO, don't worry about the titles. Just work hard for a company who values you and loves you. The rest will come. If you're working hard for a company who doesn't see that hard work, then make a change. Make a change and make sure that your values align with others. But don't chase the title will come. Whatever title it's supposed to be, you know?
Mm.
The other one I want to share is something that I've learned in recent years where I pride myself on the work that I do. I consider myself a very hard worker, and I do it with all the right reasons. I'm ethical. I don't make bad choices. I don't lie. But sometimes you get involved in situations where it can weigh you down, or you're not happy with a decision made or a choice that went wrong, and you feel like, that wasn't me, wait a minute, but they're not being nice people, or they're lying, and it can consume you because you can get in your head and say, what could I have done better? What did I do wrong? I struggle a little with perfectionism, and that's not a good thing. But one of the best pieces of advice that I got from my boss during a rough time at work was, don't let others' behaviors dictate yours.
Mm.
Stay true to who you are, even when they may change, even when they may be ugly, even when they can bring you down. You never ever allow their behaviors to dictate yours. You stay with your head held high. You stay with that honor, that integrity, and that respect. Don't ever let them change your behavior, because then you get sucked in and it can be a downward spiral. We don't want that.
That's fantastic.
And the last piece of advice I would give is, relationships are everything. You may not know it all. You may not be the rocket scientist, but if you can develop relationships with people in a way where we can talk and communicate, that's gold. That's so important, because people will want to hear from you. People will want to work with you. But when you are talking down to people or being smart but I'm right, well, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy?
Mm.
So focus on those relationships, because relationships matter in life, but in the workplace for sure.
Oh my goodness, that is so good. I actually follow Next Chat. That's the SHRM will ask a question of the week on social media, and the question they had today was, what's a skill? Let's see, was it phrased? It was phrased like, what's a skill that you would want an entry-level person to have? And obviously, it's going to be a soft skill because they haven't learned the job yet. And I was thinking to myself, relationships, like, are they able to connect with people? Because when you're able to connect with people, you can just really elevate in every area of your life. And so I appreciate you sharing. Great advice. Oh, I'm in. So we have just a few more minutes to go. And this is the part where I like to call it's time to accelerate, where I like to ask guests a few different fun questions. And so I want to ask you first question. I always like to know, because I love to read books and I love to listen to podcasts. Do you have a preference, book or podcast? What would you choose?
Definitely book. Definitely book. I'm old school. I'm not even on social media. I actually hate technology. I do. I want photographs and handwritten letters, and I want books and things we can write and touch. So books for sure.
Absolutely love that. You know, we're in the holiday season. I would love to hear what's your favorite holiday.
You know, it's not one that many people will call, but my favorite is New Year's Eve.
And why is that?
I like it because I just feel like you get to start all over again. If you want to make a change, you can clean slate it and say, this is the year. You know, it keeps that focus on getting better and making differences where you may not have done so in the prior years.
Man, I love that. I was actually thinking for me, it was, Thanksgiving, Christmas, but as you say that, I'm thinking about that's like a very energizing time for me because I learned back, I've been studying leadership the last, 25 plus years. And I learned that during that time from the day after Christmas until New Year's Day, I'm planning my year. And it's just very energizing to me. That's fantastic. I love that. Speaking of energizing, I would love to know what energizes you.
My family definitely energizes me, but as a human, like if I needed to recharge, I have to be outdoors. And right now, because we can't go anywhere, I go to my backyard. Every day when I'm done being in the office, I go to the backyard and I play with my son. We chat, we talk. We just need fresh air. And I never used to do that before the pandemic. I never used to stop and stare at a tree and see it breeze or move or hear the bird chirp. I never had time for that. But now I go, I sit outdoors, I feel the breeze, I see the sun, I see the animals or the birds. And I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed. I'm so calm. That recharges me so much.
I love
I'm
that.
glad I never did that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, you know what? There are some silver linings in this pandemic. And the word that you just continue to use, and I love it because you're a grateful leader, is the word gratitude. I think that's really put a big spotlight on the little things that we don't see or thinking about every day because we're going so fast. And so you sharing that is so good. Is there by the way, we were supposed to be in El Paso for our state council meeting earlier this year. And I was looking forward to it because I have never been to El Paso. And so that's still on my list. I can't wait to go. But is there a favorite city that you've visited or that's on your bucket list that you would like to visit one day?
You know, I definitely want to go to the Mediterranean. I've never been to that part of the country. I've been to France and Germany and Europe. I was fortunate to do that once upon a time. But I want to go to Spain. I want to go to Greece. I want to go to the Mediterranean. And one day when all this clears up, there's going to be no excuses about saving. We're going to just do it. We're going to start living life for the moment because we never know what's going to happen, right?
That's exactly right. I love that. Okay. So I have a final question. This is the question, probably my favorite question of every podcast episode that I like to ask all of my guests. And here's your question, Melissa. Melissa, if Melissa 10 years older was knocking at your door today, what is she telling you?
She's going to say, thank you for stopping and chilling out and enjoying life as it came versus trying to rush to get to the end. Thank you for enjoying life and soaking it all in and living day by day, enjoying every moment as though it was your last. That's what she's going to say in 10 years.
I love that. And she'll be proud of you as well. And I got to tell you, this is like one of the most inspiring podcasts I've been on. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your perspective, the story of your mom. And I just appreciate you doing that so much. If someone wanted to just to follow you. You said you weren't on social media. How would people connect with you if they wanted to learn more about Melissa Carrillo?
So the only thing I am really active in is LinkedIn. I
Hmm.
love LinkedIn because I think it helps us with our business relationships and keeping in touch with what everyone's doing. And it helps make me a better HR professional and leader. So LinkedIn, definitely, you can follow me on LinkedIn under Melissa Carrillo, El Paso, Texas.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, I'm grateful that we're able to serve together for Texas SHRM. We didn't talk a whole lot about Texas SHRM, but we'll be talking more about that as we go ahead, as you are going to lead the core leadership area, and super excited to serve with you and honored to not only partner with you, but just for our friendship. I appreciate you being on today so much.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you inviting me, and I super am grateful for your friendship. You are always a ray of sunshine, and you really make me want to be a better volunteer and leader. So thank you for your friendship.
Awesome. Can't wait to share this. We'll see you next time.